Welcome to the Bookies Plus weekly betting show where you'll get free NFL picks for week 5 from 4 of our gambling experts. Make sure to check out this season, each show throughout the week of the NFL season. You can also find Bookies Plus free picks at bookies.com/picks from our gambling experts. Not only can you find free NFL picks, but we've got you covered for just about any other sport that you like to wager on. Don't forget, again, every Wednesday, we're back here, so don't miss out on the show. This week, we have picks from Bill Speros, the senior betting analyst for Bookies.com. We have Adam, the ATM Thompson, long established as one of the nation's premier handicappers. Adam's over 60% success rate on NFL picks over the last 3 years. And we have Nick, the whale, Whalen, in the industry for over a decade, focusing NBA, NFL. You've seen him with RotoWire, often a guest analyst on VSiN and DraftKings. And I'm Jim Coventry from Jim Coventry NFL. You can catch me there. All right, last reminder, don't forget, you can find these picks along with others, bookies.com/picks. Gentlemen, let's get rolling here. Bill, you got a little Sunday morning football action. What do you got for us?
I got my dunce cap on, guys. I earned this by picking the Jets last week. I want to apologize to America for my dumbness. I'm wearing the dunce cap. I wrote 100,000 times on Twitter, the Jets are still the Jets. So in honor of that, we're going with the Vikings in London as small 2.5-point favorites against the Jets, just in the suffering. Of course, the Vikings are 4-0 straight up, 4-0 on the line. Sam Darnold is ripping it up. Him and Justin Jefferson have seemed to connected. Of course, Darnold's looking for a little payback against his old team. And frankly, I have got to wonder how many leaks they're springing over there in Florham Park at Jets HQ, especially with the continued friction between one Aaron Rodgers and one Robert Saleh. So I think this one is a good one for the Vikings. They're really clicking. The Jets, not so much.
Great call on that one. And Nick, you have the same pick. Why don't you pile on this one a little bit?
Yeah, I think the only thing I could think of to pick against Minnesota this week is just this belief that it's been too good so far for the Vikings, right? And, we can't believe this 4-0 start. And at some point it has to turn around. And, perhaps the variance that going to London brings and has brought over the last few years, maybe that is something that works against Minnesota, but it's hard to find, any stat or metric or even anything that we've watched that would imply that the Jets are the better team. And I think Bill is right. There's some internal turmoil going on with the Jets. I think if they lose this game, the pressure is going to be turned up even more to trade for Davante Adams, who said the Jets and the Saints are two of his preferred destinations. And, I think Minnesota is also the healthier team, right? I mean, not only are the Jets going to be without one of their tackles, Morgan Moses, we saw that certainly mattered last week against Denver, but Aaron Rodgers himself was banged up late in that game. He said he's dealing with some swelling in his knee. I mean, having to hop on an international flight, I don't know that that's ideal. Kind of a weird game week for the New York Jets. I think Minnesota, to me, has been the vastly more consistent team on both sides of the ball. They've been the best defense in football. They're still number one by a mile in terms of defensive DVOA, and that's even after allowing the Green Bay Packers to score 29 points after they jumped out to that 28-0 lead. So, unless we see a stunning reversal for this Jets offense, which really struggled last week against Denver. I know that was a weird weather game, but when I watch the Jets guys, even in the games that they've won, it doesn't feel like everything is humming, right? Like they still haven't gotten Garrett Wilson involved. We're seeing way more Allen Lazard, more Mike Williams than we expected. Breece Hall's been slowed down each of these last couple of weeks. I know that the Vikings do not have that Pat Surtain, premium cornerback you can just throw on Garrett Wilson, but I think this defense collectively is playing just as well as just about any unit in the NFL right now. And I don't know what else we have to see, man. I mean, it's not like they're just beating up on the Giants and the Panthers every week. I mean, they've done this against San Francisco, Houston, and Green Bay. I think this is a really good spot for Minnesota.
Adam Thompson, we both like the Chicago Bears. Why don't you kick us off here?
Yeah, we'll stay in the NFC North as far as teams we like. Andy Dalton surprised some with his first start. They won in Vegas, but since then, now there's actual game footage of 2024 Andy Dalton. And the last 2 weeks, they scored 13 points combined. I think that's the Carolina Panthers we're going to see going forward. The Bears defense, I think they should have not many problems here. They've allowed between 17 and 21 points every game this season, 17 and 18 at home. I think that number can even come down this week. This is Chicago's last home game in a while, I think. The last true home game. So I think even extra motivation for them to get it done. And Carolina's defense, they just lost Shaq. So basically, anybody who can make a tackle is now gone for the year, or at least for this game, for poor Carolina Panthers. So they're decimated. I think that adds confidence to young Caleb Williams, and -3.5 at home at Soldier. I like that number. It'd be nicer for -3, but I think it's more likely to go up to -4 at this point. So I'll take it at -3.5.
Yeah, not a lot to add, but like you said, the Panthers and Dalton had played the Raiders and the Bengals. Those are two of the worst defense in the league. Bears might not be great against the run, but they're a top 5 pass defense, and that's not a good recipe for that Panthers offense. And then Caleb Williams, I know numbers haven't looked great, but you could see each week he's getting a little more comfortable. He's making some better throws, some better reads. And this is another team. No pass rush. They have J.C. Horn, but they have nobody else to cover. So, yeah, Caleb Williams will show a little progression. This is the first probable game where the Bears might have a lot of comfortable win. And I'm excited to see that. All right, let's go back around the horn here. Bill, you want to talk a little Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, I've been fully brainwashed by Baltimore. They've gotten better each week. I think if they played the Chiefs this week, they'd beat them. I'm taking the cheese on them getting back to Arrowhead and winning that AFC Championship game this year. They're thoroughly dominant on both sides. That offensive line is fierce, and having Henry and Lamar Jackson, you don't know who's going to get the ball. The fullback is like a wrecking ball. I just think they're winning, on the line of scrimmage, on the ground, and of course Lamar can chuck it whenever he has to. The Bengals, they beat the Panthers. Does that even count? They've whiffed on the line 7 of 8 times against the AFC North. They've lost outright 4 out of 5 against the AFC North. It's just not a good trend line for them. They're facing a familiar foe and a team that, is really serious about maybe once again getting that AFC title game at home. I just don't see how Baltimore can't get the cover here, even on the road, especially, with how they just all 3 phases, special teams have got a huge edge too. I like this line. I like that the Bengals lost. I think it might have given us even the hook, which is really all you want at 3. So I'm going with the mighty purple and black.
And I'm with you on that one, Bill. That's my second pick as well. And you mentioned the fullback Patrick Ricard, and I was angry after week 1 and 2 when he was playing 20% of the snaps. And I said, they lost their identity. They're throwing the ball to Isaiah Likely. They're throwing it to Justice Hill. Now, Hill saw it last week, but I said, that's not their identity. They're going to circle the drain. They fix that right away. Ricard's on the field half of the time. The Ravens, I know it's been 2 rougher run defenses. They're averaging over 250 rushing yards in the last 2 games. And like you said, defensively, it was like last year when you watch them, it looked like they had 12 players on defense. It was like, how are they defending all this? First 2 weeks they didn't. They got that fixed. They're flying all over the place. Cincinnati's offensive line, that is the mismatch. And they might have Chase, they might have Higgins, but that offensive line is a problem. And I'm with you on that one very much. Ravens -3. Adam, little Jacksonville Jaguars soccer, Nick Whalen's favorite team.
Whoa.
Yeah, how about them Jags? 0-4 with their backs against the wall. Coaches and players potentially not getting along. Doug Peterson's job on the line. But the schedule's been grueling. Look, they've played a lot of close games. They played all legit playoff contenders. Anyway, they played a Tua Dolphins team, which is obviously completely different from a non-Tua Dolphins team, as we've learned. Here they return home. They get to face a Colts team that at best will have 100% Jonathan Taylor, banged up Anthony Richardson, ranks bottom 5 against the pass and bottom 5 against the run in the NFL so far this season. So I think if Trevor Lawrence and Peterson, if they're ever going to get it done, if they're ever going to figure it out, it has to be now at home. They can attack Indy, especially on grass. Indy's built for, more built for a dome than they are outdoor grass. If they don't get it done this week, if they can't find a win this week, then change may be coming sooner than later in Jacksonville. So -2.5, you're just laying less than a field goal for a home team that's been competing, has not looked good at all, and yet has still competed. I think -2.5 is a fair number.
Well, Nick Whalen, if Adam Thompson's right, I'll be a 1-4 instead of an 0-5 start. And you can probably live with that. Nick, you like a little Seattle Seahawks action. Why don't you talk about that game?
Well, first of all, I'll add my 2 cents on my Jags, and this is just a total stay away for me. I can't believe the Jags are favored over anybody right now, but they have owned the Colts. I mean, they have completely owned this matchup in the last 10 years. The Jags are 15-2-1 against the Colts since 2015, so something to at least keep an eye on there. And the Jags are bringing out their throwback uniforms. All right, this is a kitchen sink game for Jacksonville. If the throwbacks can't save them, I don't know what can. Anyway, I like Seattle here, and I know it's a short week, right? Big rest advantage for the New York Giants. They played on Thursday. Seattle, of course, played on the road on Sunday night. Somewhat of a concern here, but favorites on short rest, playing a team on extended rest, are 43-13-1 straight up, and 31-26 against the number over the last 20 years. And this is a long cross-country trip for the New York Giants. So I think that in some ways mitigates the rest advantage. Geno Smith, he's been a great quarterback as a favorite in his career, especially at home, 11-5 straight up as a favorite of 3 points or more. He's 6-0 straight up when he's a favorite of at least 5 points. And look, obviously we're taking Seattle to cover the number here, but I think they could do it. I really like what I saw from Seattle in that Detroit game. Obviously they came up short, but to rack up over 400 yards of offense, or excuse me, over 500 yards of offense on Detroit. I think if DK Metcalf doesn't lose that fumble early in the game and, it's almost returned for a touchdown, Detroit goes up 2 scores, that would have been a back and forth, which team can stop the other type of game. And I think the fact that Seattle kind of lost that possession early on put them in a hole that they couldn't climb out of on the road. But this should be a nice spot to rebound. They've had a soft schedule so far this season. This is another attackable defense. And we also saw the difference that Kenneth Walker makes when he's healthy, right? Zach Charbonnet, he's a solid fill-in. He did nice work over the previous 2 weeks. Kenneth Walker is a completely different ballgame, man. I mean, he is one of the most difficult backs to bring down. He gives them a big play element that they did not have with Zach Charbonnet. So I expect the Giants to hang around. I don't think this is a total laugher by any means, but I think Seattle can win this game by a touchdown.
Yeah, the spread offense, Ryan Grubb, has really benefited Kenneth Walker. Last year with too many tight end sets, they knew the run was coming. They condensed areas on defense. But you're right, Kenneth Walker is thriving in this offense now that he has 2 healthy games for the season. We're back around the horn one more time. Bill, give us your last pick.
Kansas City -5. That line's moving a little north. It's up to 5.5 at some places. Nervous, but not pulling back, even if it's 5.5. That's really not much in the big scheme of things. Chiefs are 8-1-1 on the line and during this 10-game winning streak. Oh, by the way, they're on a 10-game winning streak. I think that's sort of been lost, and they're doing it with defense. Every week, Patrick Mahomes has a new target, or it's like. The Chiefs, these Chiefs remind me very much of the 2003 Patriots, where they had a great quarterback, and they had a lot of receivers, guys they picked up in the Home Depot parking lot, the day laborers and stuff. The Chiefs are kind of at that point right now, and the strength the Saints have is their rushing game, but the Chiefs are equally as good in stopping the rush. The real disparity here is in passing. The Saints are 25th in the league against a pass defense, and that's just not a good sign. Again, I don't care who Patrick Mahomes is throwing to, because he can make anybody look good. And if this is a situation where the Chiefs need their offense to deliver, I'm really not worried about it. We know how quickly they can score, especially at home. And the burning issue is whether or not Taylor Swift is going to be there. That's the real concern here for all of us. I got to say, Travis is kind of looking a little midlife crisis right now, but Patrick Mahomes isn't, and I'm going to ride that horse until it kicks me off.
Won't happen this week. You're going to get that win here. I like that -5 call. Adam, you got one more for us.
Yeah, as bad as Kelsey's look, Mark Andrews owners can not be pleased
Oh
about
boy.
anything that's gone on, especially as Likely has emerged. He looks like a real player. Andrews might be done. Anyway, I divert. Steelers. They are taking on the Cowboys this week. Cowboys team without both edge rushers, one of which is Micah Parsons, who might be the most disruptive player in the league. How they respond and bounce back from that is TBD. But I think, especially with their top corner, Bland is still out as well. That's a lot of holes. That's a lot of important holes to fill that may not be fillable, at least on this 1 week notice. So I think Pittsburgh offense can respond. And then on the other side of the ball, Dallas throws it almost 80% of the time so far this year, which means a defense led by Watt can pin its ears back and really go after a Dak Prescott who's not gotten a lot of protection. So just a lot of things just add up to bad news for Dallas and Pittsburgh. I think it's up to -2.5. It was -1.5 as of Monday. And it might keep crawling up there, but anything under 3, if you can grab it before it hits the minus that magic number, I would say jump all in. I laid it at -1.5 on Monday, and it keeps rising.
Nick, you have a different angle on this game. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, there is still a Pittsburgh -1.5 out there at FanDuel right now, according to our odds page over at RotoWire. So I would implore you to jump on that. I'm with Adam. I think this is a good spot for the Steelers at home. But my derivative on this game is the under 43. And this number is starting to come down at some shops. There's some 42.5s out there. I like it at 43. You mentioned some of the offensive concerns for Dallas. I think they're too predictable. And, we kind of saw some of this last week against the Giants, right? I mean, it's a team that just can't run the ball. They haven't been able to run the ball on anybody so far this season. And I don't think that changes against Pittsburgh. We did see the Colts get that ground game going to some degree last week. I don't think that happens 2 weeks in a row. And, when you're in these obvious passing situations over and over, I think the Pittsburgh defense is going to be well equipped to slow down Dallas. And I think, you take away Micah Parsons, you take away DeMarcus Lawrence, you think, all right, maybe this is a smash spot for Pittsburgh. I don't know that this offense is necessarily capable of that. We saw them pile up a bunch of passing yards last week, but that was a game where they were down by multiple scores. It wasn't quite Green Bay, Minnesota, but it was basically Pittsburgh just having to throw the ball every single time. And I don't think they necessarily run away with this game. I think both teams probably struggle a little bit offensively. I think the common belief is you take away Micah Parsons and, oh no, you can't stop anybody. Well, Pittsburgh can't really run the ball either. I mean, they couldn't move it on a bad Colts defense last week. So I do like Pittsburgh to win a close game, but I think this could be, one of those 20-17 type of results. And Pittsburgh has been a big under team so far this season. They're 3-1 to the under. We are going under 43 in Cowboys Steelers.
2017. I like 2017 because then we both win.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The win-win. Oh, the same game parlay. You could use it that way. I love that. Last one I have is the Bills -1 at the Texans. Look, Baltimore manhandled Buffalo last week. It was just, they punched him in the mouth repeatedly. The Bills cannot handle that type of team. But we can't lose sight. This was a Bills team averaging 37 points a game through the first 3 games. This offense was clicking on all cylinders. And yeah, Josh Allen at a high level, James Cook playing well. They're patching the receiver room together well. The Texans are a decent defense. This is not the type of defense that's slowing down the Josh Allen offense. I think they have average run defense. Stingley's a very good corner, but overall the pass defense is pretty adequate. The Bills should get near 30 points again, looking like the team they were the first few weeks. Then the other side of the ball. We love the Texans. We love C.J. Stroud. But did you know they're averaging 18 points a game? Stroud has 1 regular season game in his career with more than 2 touchdowns. He's great, but they just don't put up the big numbers. And the Bills defense, say what you will, they got run over. But their pass defense is very good. And I know it's the Stephon Diggs revenge game. Not worried about it at all. The game looks great on the schedule. But the Bills, they were embarrassing. They're the class, besides the Chiefs, of course, and the Ravens. They're among those 3 teams. They're in that 3-team class of the AFC. They'll get back on track. They'll win this game. They only have to win to cover. They're -1. So we should be in good shape there. Let's recap the picks and get some final thoughts. All right, so recapping the picks for this week. Bill Speros has the Vikings -2.5. Ravens -3, and the Chiefs -5. Adam Thompson, Jaguars -2.5, Bears -3.5, and you actually went with the Steelers -1.5 on that one.
I love the Niners too.
Love the Niners as well. Maybe you'll circle back to that in a minute when I get the last thoughts. Nick Whalen's going Vikings -2.5, agreeing with Bill Speros. Seahawks -6, and agreeing with Adam Thompson, also going under 43. I agree with Bill on the Ravens -3. I agree with Adam on the Bears -3.5, and I like the Bills -1. All right, let's see if we have any final thoughts this week. Bill Speros, any final thoughts for us?
Yeah, the public is getting slaughtered this year, in case you haven't noticed. Public sides 51% and greater on the line is 22, 38, and 2 after 4 weeks. That is the worst start in 20 years, according to Action HQ. So that's also, you're seeing a lot of damage in parlays as well. If this holds, you're obviously going to see some pretty good numbers for these books in terms of their revenue reports, which will also bleed over into the States. But that is the significant early trend this year, is that the favorites, at least the public favorites, are struggling. So I think that's probably a result of it just being the first, 25% of the season. I think we're getting to the point now where you're going to start to see things settle with teams like, the Chiefs or even the Ravens or the Vikings or San Francisco, some of these really solid teams that are, even though they struggled, I think we'll see a little bit of settling moving forward on that.
Nick Whalen, closing thoughts.
One other game that didn't quite make my card, but one that I do like is the Green Bay Packers to win this game and cover the 3.5 against the LA Rams. And, I know they're on the road, long trip out to LA. Green Bay's moved the ball on everybody. Even when they fall behind 28-0, they find a way to claw back. And yeah, you lose Christian Watson last week, but they have the depth at receiver, I think, to continue to attack what is a really, really bad LA Rams defense. And you're always going to worry about McVay and Stafford cooking something up, even without Cooper Kupp and without Puka Nacua. But this has been an opportunistic Green Bay defense. They generate turnovers. I think they'll be able to get pressure on Matthew Stafford. Rams have been one of the 5 worst offensive lines in the NFL so far this season. So I like Green Bay to get back on track. Saw some good things in the second half against the Rams. As long as Jordan Love isn't just throwing up jump balls as he was a few times and, throwing hospital balls to Christian Watson, if he could take care of the ball, if he could turn it over 1 or fewer times, I think Green Bay can win this game pretty easily.
That is going to be a home game for the Packers, by the way.
Yep.
Fantastic point there as well. Adam Thompson, final thoughts from you.
Well, I guess I could talk about the Niners since they were one of my favorite 3 picks that I didn't even talk about. Yeah, they're a different team at home. They're taking on Arizona. They pounded Arizona the last 4 games. I think the closest was a 16-point margin. Kyler Murray's QB rating against these Niners is 86 for his career. They're finally getting healthy. We finally saw all their pieces last week in a pretty easy win over the Pats. So I think they've had their number over the years. They've had Kyler Murray's number, and now they're finally getting on track now. So I think they can win this one going away. The number was -7.5. I was waiting for it to drop to -7. It dropped this morning to -7 at DraftKings, among other places. So go find it at -7 in case it bounces back.
My final thought is that 4 weeks are in the books, and we've learned a lot about teams. We've seen different versions of teams throughout the 4 weeks. For instance, the Ravens. The Ravens, the first weeks, I mentioned it when I talked about them earlier, that they were going with more Isaiah Likely and more with Justice Hill. Hill's still out there, but when they changed their identity, they realized it wasn't working. 4 weeks, we have data on these teams. We watch film. We see trends. We're understanding. This allows us to attack these games better from a betting angle now that we kind of know Denver Broncos. They might actually have a really good defense. We didn't think that. So these are things we're starting to integrate now as we go. And I know for myself personally, I feel much more stable breaking these games down than I did the first few weeks when everything was shifting sand. Hey, this has been the Bookies Plus weekly gambling show. Be sure to bookmark bookies.com/picks. Again, bookies.com/picks. So you can check out our free picks for both the NFL and other sports. We have a new episode every Wednesday for the remainder of the NFL season. Come back next week, and we'll see you then.